All right, so are you ready for this? Today we are diving into some pretty fascinating stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be tackling this whole concept of a supreme god named Kabir.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this?
I have heard of the name Kabir,
Okay.
but not in this particular context.
Yeah.
Like as a unifying supreme god. So I'm intrigued.
I am too. And all the excerpts that you sent over,
Yeah.
it pulls from all these different religious texts like the Bible, Vedas, Quran, Guru Granth Sahib.
Right.
And it's kind of questioning how we even interpret
Mm-hmm.
these familiar texts like the Bible.
Yeah, it's a fascinating premise, isn't it? This idea that maybe there's like a single supreme god
Yeah.
and that all these different religions are kind of like facets of the same
Exactly.
truth or the same divine figure.
Yeah, and it could be totally unifying, but, anytime you bring up something like that,
Right.
it always sparks debate.
Oh, absolutely. It's bound to, shake things up a little bit.
For sure, for sure. So we are going on a mission today.
Okay.
We're going to uncover, who is this Kabir figure, what makes him supreme with a capital S's, and what evidence do these excerpts provide to support these wild claims?
I'm ready. Let's dive in.
Okay, so right off the bat, they come out strong. They state that Kabir is actually named
Oh, wow.
as the supreme god in these scriptures, like the Bible,
Okay.
Vedas, Quran, and Guru Granth Sahib.
It's a bold claim, and it raises a lot of questions for me.
Yeah.
If Kabir is this unifying figure across all these different traditions, why isn't he more widely recognized?
I know, it's strange, but they point to a specific verse, Iyov 36.5 from the Orthodox Jewish Bible,
Okay.
as a key piece of evidence, and they argue that the word Kabir
Mm-hmm.
is often translated as great or mighty,
Right.
but they say no, it's actually God's name.
That's really interesting. So it's like they're suggesting that maybe the true meaning has been lost in translation.
Yeah.
Or it's been misinterpreted over time.
Yeah, and you see that thread throughout all of these excerpts, the idea that the true nature of the divine has been hidden or distorted.
So it's not just about revealing a new God, but it's about uncovering a hidden truth
Yeah.
about the God that we already think we know.
I like that. Yeah, so it's not just about revealing this new God, but it's uncovering the truth about the God that we think we already know.
Right.
And speaking of uncovering, another point they make
Yeah.
is that Kabir is described as having a form,
Okay.
which might be surprising to those who think of God as formless.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting because, the idea of God having a form or not having a form, there's been a debate in different theological traditions for centuries.
Ever.
Yeah.
So how do they explain that?
Well, they use an analogy that's actually pretty compelling.
Okay.
They talk about how humans are created in God's image.
Uh-huh.
So if we have a form,
Right.
wouldn't it make sense that our creator would also have a form?
Makes sense.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
And they also back it up with specific examples from the Bible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like instances where God is actually depicted as interacting with the physical world in a way that kind of suggests that he has a form.
Okay, give me some examples.
Like walking in the Garden of Eden,
Okay.
talking to Adam,
Right.
appearing to Abraham as three men.
Yeah. So it really makes you re-examine those familiar stories
It does.
because you never really thought about that.
No, you don't really think about it that way until someone points it out.
No, you don't. Okay, so then what about the verses that describe God as spirit?
Right.
Does that contradict this whole idea of form?
Well, the sources address that too, and they argue that, having a form doesn't negate God's spiritual nature.
Okay.
It's not like one or the other. They actually reference Luke 24.39,
Okay.
where Jesus says, a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have.
Right.
So it's like they're acknowledging the complexity of God, that maybe God can be both spirit and form.
Okay.
Simultaneously.
So there's this nuance where
Right.
God has a form, but it's not like ours.
Yeah.
It's not flesh and bones.
Exactly. It's something different.
Uh-huh. How does that idea sit with you? Does it challenge any of your pre-existing beliefs about God?
It definitely encourages me to, reevaluate, some of the traditional perspectives I've been exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they're saying that maybe our understanding of God is kind of limited by, human concepts and human language.
Right.
And maybe we need to kind of expand our understanding of what's possible.
Yeah, so we need to expand our understanding of what's possible and consider a God
Yeah.
who might be both more complex and more tangible
Yeah.
than we previously imagined.
Yeah, more than just this abstract force.
Exactly. And speaking of challenging traditional perspectives, things get really interesting when they start examining the power dynamics
Oh, yeah.
between God and other divine beings.
This is where they get into Kabir's, unmatched powers.
Yes.
and how he's different from other gods or deities.
Yeah.
And they argue that while these other gods may have certain powers,
Yeah.
they're not on the same level as Kabir.
And they use the word demigods
Yeah.
to describe them, like implying a hierarchy there.
There's a clear hierarchy.
It's like they're redefining this whole celestial pecking order.
Right. It's not just about raw power either.
Right.
It's about the source of that power
Yeah.
and the scope of that power. They claim that Kabir has control over the entire universe,
The entire universe.
over destiny,
Wow.
over the very laws of nature.
What?
So it's like, what does that tell us
That's a
about?
lot of power.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot to think about.
It is.
It raises questions about, his nature and his relationship to creation.
That's a big question. So what do you make of this distinction?
Well,
This whole idea that there's a hierarchy
yeah.
within the divine realm.
Yeah, it's definitely a thought-provoking concept.
Yeah.
Like we're being asked to reimagine the whole concept of God, not just as this singular force,
Right.
but as the head of like a cosmic order with all these different levels of power and authority.
Right, like a chain of command.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in the heavens.
And that hierarchy plays a significant role in how they interpret certain biblical stories, too.
Oh, really? Like which ones?
Well, for example, they point to passages like Genesis 3:22, where God says, one of us,
Oh, yeah.
which kind of implies that there are multiple divine beings present.
Yeah, you don't really think about it when you're reading it, but when someone points it out, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait a minute.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
like, who has other beings?
Yeah, and they also bring up the encounter with those three men in Genesis 18, where
Right.
it's not really clear who's who.
Yeah, it's ambiguous.
Yeah, and, thinking about this hierarchy, it makes you wonder if those three figures represent different levels within that divine pecking order.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And in fact, the sources argue that the God appearing in these instances isn't actually the supreme God Kabir,
Oh, wow.
but it's a lower god, sometimes referred to as Satan or Kal Brahma.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, they present this being as like a powerful force, but ultimately subordinate to Kabir.
Okay, so he's got like underlings.
Right, exactly.
So it's like there's this whole other layer to the biblical narrative that we might be missing
Totally.
if we're only reading it through like the traditional lens.
It makes you wonder how many other stories we might interpret differently if we looked at them through this lens of, a divine hierarchy,
Oh, yeah. And how many other things are hidden that we don't see.
right? Like what else are we missing?
Exactly. So now this whole idea of a divine hierarchy
Yeah,
and the existence of multiple gods might feel really foreign to some,
right.
especially those raised in monotheistic traditions.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on how this concept might impact someone's understanding of their own faith?
Well, it's definitely thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And for some people, it might challenge some really deeply held beliefs.
Sure.
But it could also offer a new framework
Okay.
for understanding the complexities of like religious texts and traditions.
Okay, so it's like we're being given a new set of lenses to view the world through.
Yeah, like a new perspective.
One that might reveal like hidden depths and connections
Exactly.
that we never even noticed before. And speaking of connections, the excerpts make a rather unexpected turn
Okay.
by delving into vegetarianism.
Interesting.
So what's the connection they're drawing between Kabir
Okay.
and what we eat?
Well, this is where they connect Kabir's supremacy to his intentions for humanity.
Okay.
And they say that includes, a diet based on plants.
So they're saying that God wants us to be vegetarian?
Yeah, they argue that he originally intended for both humans and animals to be vegetarian.
And how do they back that up?
They cite verses from Genesis like 1.29 and 1.30,
Okay.
where God provides plants as food for all living beings.
Right, all living beings.
And they even bring up Isaiah 11.6-7,
Okay.
which depicts like this really peaceful world where predators and prey live in harmony, and they're both eating straw.
It's a beautiful image.
It is a beautiful image.
It makes you think.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder if this vegetarian lifestyle is more than just a personal choice.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a way to reconnect with that original intention.
Uh-huh.
Live in alignment with the will of the supreme God.
Yeah, to kind of get back to that original state of harmony.
What do you think about that connection?
It's definitely an interesting perspective. It's like they're saying our dietary choices have like spiritual implications
Okay.
that they can reflect either our alignment with or our deviation from like a divine plan.
Oh, so we're going against God's plan
Potentially, yeah.
by eating meat.
It's something to consider.
That's interesting. Okay, so they even use the story of Daniel in the Bible as an example.
Right.
He refuses the king's meat, and he chooses like this plant-based diet,
Yeah.
and he becomes healthier and stronger.
He thrives.
Yes, so they present this as evidence for the benefits of a vegetarian diet.
Right.
Even within like a biblical context.
Exactly. And the story of Daniel is often cited as an example of faithfulness and obedience to God's will, right?
Yes.
But it's like they're saying, well, maybe that obedience should extend to our dietary choices as well.
That's interesting, and it doesn't stop there.
No.
They tie this back to the idea of prophets
Uh-huh.
and their role in revealing God's will.
Right.
And they even quote 1 Corinthians 2.7,
Okay.
which mentions false spirits,
Yeah.
suggesting that some teachings about meat consumption might be influenced by, false spirits.
Wow, that's a bold claim.
It is bold.
It's like they're saying that, what we might consider accepted religious teachings could actually be distorted or influenced by
Right.
forces that aren't aligned with the supreme God Kabir.
So not everything that we've been taught is true.
Well, it's possible, they're encouraging us to question everything, to really dig deeper and discern for ourselves
Right.
what truly aligns with the divine will.
So we need to figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah, it's a challenging idea,
Yeah.
but it's also incredibly empowering.
It is empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have to rely on someone else to tell us what's right or wrong.
Exactly.
It's about taking ownership of our spiritual journeys and seeking the truth for ourselves.
Right.
And this deep dive has been full of unexpected twists and turns.
It has.
We've also exploring this concept of a supreme God,
Mhm.
to reevaluating biblical stories, to examining our dietary choices.
Who knew they were all connected?
I know, right? So where do you see this exploration leading us?
It's like we've gone down this rabbit hole,
I know.
full of challenging ideas and unexpected connections.
Yes. So what stands out to you as the most significant thread through all of this?
I think for me, it's this theme of uncovering hidden truths.
Yeah.
Like these excerpts, they encourage us to look beyond the surface,
Mm-hmm.
to question the accepted interpretations,
Yeah.
to dig deeper into, the mysteries of the divine.
It's like they're giving us this new map,
Yeah.
and it's highlighting these paths that we might have just totally overlooked before.
And they all lead back to Kabir.
Yeah.
As the key to unlocking a more complete understanding of God.
Okay, and our place in the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Our relationship to the divine.
And they present Kabir not just as this distant deity,
Right.
but as a supreme God who's active in the world.
Yeah. Involved, engaged.
And has a plan for humanity.
Plan and a purpose,
And that desired way of life, as they see it, includes, vegetarianism,
Yeah.
recognizing his form,
Right.
understanding that there's a divine hierarchy.
It's a whole new way of looking at things.
It is. So it makes you wonder, if we were to align ourselves with these teachings,
Mm-hmm.
how would it change our experience of the world?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like they're saying that aligning ourselves with Kabir's will
Mm-hmm.
would lead to greater harmony,
Okay.
both within ourselves and with the world around us.
So there's that recurring theme of harmony again.
Yeah, keep coming up.
Harmony with nature through diet.
Right.
Harmony with the divine through understanding his true nature.
It's like they're presenting this blueprint for a more peaceful and fulfilling existence.
I like that. And that blueprint challenges us to reconsider
Yeah.
some fundamental assumptions. For instance, the idea that God has a form as they present it
Right.
could radically shift how we conceptualize the divine.
It takes it from this abstract, ethereal realm
Right.
into something more tangible.
Yeah, like a more relatable God.
Right. Someone we can maybe even picture in our minds.
Yeah, one who's both transcendent and immanent.
And by connecting this idea of God's form to specific biblical passages,
Mm-hmm.
they're also implying that, maybe this concept has been present in these traditions all along,
Right.
just kind of hidden beneath layers of interpretation.
It's like they're saying, look closer.
Yeah,
Pay attention, the evidence is right
it's
there.
right there.
And this applies to other concepts too, like the divine hierarchy.
Yeah.
It challenges us to reconsider the power dynamics within the spiritual realm.
Right, who's in charge?
Yeah,
And how does that all work?
exactly. And they're suggesting that there is a hierarchy even within the divine.
A chain of command leading back to Kabir as the supreme authority.
That might feel foreign to some,
Oh, absolutely.
especially those raised in strictly monotheistic traditions.
But it opens up these fascinating possibilities.
It does.
It encourages us to re-examine our assumptions about God
Yeah.
and explore different ways of understanding, the divine.
And that's ultimately what this deep dive has been all about.
It's about pushing the boundaries of our understanding,
Yeah.
exploring new ideas,
Yes.
and discovering hidden truths.
It's been a wild ride.
It has been.
Filled with unexpected twists and turns.
So many twists and turns.
We uncovered some really fascinating insights
Yeah.
about the divine, the interpretation of religious texts, and even, our dietary choices.
Yeah.
But most importantly,
Yeah.
we were reminded that the search for truth is an ongoing process.
It never ends.
It never ends, and it requires us to be open to new perspectives.
Yes.
And to embrace the mystery of it all.
Absolutely. This deep dive has given us a lot to ponder
So much.
and research further and to discuss.
Yes.
And who knows, it might even inspire some of us to embark on our own journeys of spiritual discovery.
Yes.
Guided by, this intriguing concept of Kabir as the supreme God.
Well said. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
And we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas.
Keep questioning.
Challenge your assumptions and never stop seeking truth.
The truth is out there.
It is out there. Until next time, keep those minds open and those spirits curious.